Welcome to this video where we will talk about the movie Wednesday. We will begin by exploring the movie storyline, summarizing its plot, and discuss the cast and characters. Then we will take a closer look at the film production details and box office performance. Finally, we will share review and audience reaction to give you a well-rounded perspective. Let's get started. Wednesday Season 1 Recap. What to remember before Season 2. With Wednesday Season 1, Netflix delivered a creepy copy, altogether ocky new spin on the Addams family, taking audience to the Nevermore Academy, where teenage Wednesday Addams attend a school full of the monster, freaks, and the outcast, as the monster and the freaks are called in the world of the Wednesday. Learning to tap into her power as a psycho while the unrevealing mystery after mystery. Wednesday spent season 1 on the hunt for a hairy monster, fell for the wrong guy and they dug deep into some horrible truth hidden beneath the page of the local history. If you need a refresh, here's a throw Wednesday season 1 recap with all the characters, twists, and the turns you need to remember. Welcome to Nevermore Academy. In the pre-credit sequence, Wednesday finds her the brother Paisley suffered in a locker, and when she touches him, she has a vision of the same jocks who put him there. Naturally, her solution is to God set perhaps losses in the school pool. She promptly explained in the car with her family. She headed to Nevermore Academy, and Lexi, her parents met and fell in love there. And her mom was not just a student, she was the student captain of the fucking team, queen of the dark prom, and the president of the Sensi Society. It's a legacy Wednesday is not thrilled to carry, and a shadow she does not want to stand in. But Nevermore is full of the fellow outcasts, kids with the various supernatural abilities, and she will be among her the peers. Morticia was even roommates with the Nevermore currently principal, Larcia Weem, who plays Wednesday in her mother old dormitory Olfia Hall, her the roommate the Packy people. Dormitory Olafia Hall, her roommate, the Packy people person and late blooming, well-full, engaged Snyder, whose every bite as a cheaper and the colorful as Wednesday is the gloomy, and it give Wednesday the tour and get to take in the site and student of the Nevermore built in 1791 as a refuge for the outcast, monster and the freaks of all kinds. This year, however, is a bite of a curiosity as Nevermore is hosting its first Nomia teacher, Marilyn Throhill, played by iconic former Wednesday Addams actress Christis. As Andy explained, Nevermore cliques are currently broken up into Franks, vampires, furs, werewolves, strong guardians, and the scales sirens. The recent popular girl by Nika Barkley, Jo Sunday is a serene who shares a complicated relationship with her mother too, and used to date the resident teacher artist Xavier Thrope, Parisi Hansfight, and the neighboring town of the Jesia. Neighboring town of the Jesia have a teens but the maturely beneficial relationship that proves to be a false when years slapped over some Hanukkah history full of the hearted bigotry and the journalistic regards, but we will get to all that. We first get to explore Jessia when the Wednesday is brought out into town for her the required therapy season with the Dr. Ken Bot. Wednesday promptly snake bird run into a man carrying a carrot of the apples and has a visions of his dad. He snap into the cabin of his truck, ducking into the local coffee shop. Wednesday has her meet cute with the barista, Jessia local tailor, Gaplin Hunter Doohan. When she helps him fixes the espresso machine. One thing we quickly learn about the Jerusalem then the town is obsessed with its the pilgrim heritage, especially its founder Josiah Crackstone when three trouble-making teen boys dressed as a plumber come to the coffee shop. Wednesday hardly beats all the of them in a fight. It's a satisfying moment, but not a great first impression for the shifty Gaplin. The Lord Father, he does not like the outsider and he certainly is not too fond of the Academy family, of the Adam family talking Wednesday that her father belongs in jail for the murder. Weems finally tracks Wednesday down, and during their drive back to campus, they see the man with the apple carrot died in his truck, neck twist just like Wednesday saw in her vision. Detective Wednesday and the mysterious undeath on the round Lancel. Just as Wednesday arrives at the Nevermore Academy, a monster starts attacking innocent people around Nevermore and the Jersey. The victim seems unconnected, a hitchhiking backsweeper, a Nevermore student on the brink of the madness, a vagrant squatting in a local historical establishment, but the Wednesday, who their books deep into writing her own teen detective series, is determined to crack the case, and she gets up close and personal with it all. The Harvey's festival where she runs into her schoolmate Rohan Laszlo. Clambros literally when they touch she sees a vision of the monster killing him, so she follows him into the woods to warm him, but once she gets to him, he attacks her using his the technique powers to pin her to a tree and try to kill her. He explained that years ago his mother, a powerful seer, drew a picture of the Wednesday and told him it was his the destiny to destroy her before she destroyed Nevermore. That's when the Hyde attacks and kills Ron on the spot, growling at the Wednesday but leaving her alive. In the aftermath, Wednesday tells everyone exactly what happens, but to her great surprise, Ron shows up alive at school the next day. Nobody believes her but the Lord. But eventually she learns the truth. Ron really was killed by the Heidi in those woods. Turned out Sim is a shapeshifter, and with the help of the Rion family shamed by his attempt to kill Wednesday, she covered up his death to protect Nevermore. It's one of the many cover-ups that the Wednesday gets to the bottom of in season 1 each darker. Attempt to kill Wednesday, she covered up his death to protect Nevermore. It's one of many cover-ups that the Wednesday gets to the bottom of in season 1, each darker and more drawing than the next. Uncle Foster unlocks a trove of the heady lore that solves the mystery of the Rowan, but what about the monster? Eventually, with a light help for her beloved Uncle Foster freed American, Wednesday learned that the monster is called a Hyde, one of the most dangerous and the mysterious all of the cast. That solves the mystery of the Rion, but what about the monster? Eventually, with a little help from her, the beloved Uncle Foster's freed Amazon, Wednesday learned that the monster is called a Heidi, one of the most dangerous and the mysterious of all outcasts. Nevermore founder Nathaniel Flunker is one of the very few to research the species. He spent years studying heights to determine if they are mindless killers or the consequences of their actions, but he walked like by a hide before the he could come to a conclusions. Others tried to carry on the research but found that the Hades were too unpredictable and the valiant hearts are even banned from the Nevermore. Flanker diary reveals that the hearts are born of dimensions, unleashed by a traumatic event or unlocked through chemical indicament or the happiness. Who more unlock the Hyde becomes master of the monster with that Wednesday release. She looking for two killers, not one. And as a Foster says, anyone willing to unlock a Hyde is a next level psycho who must stick together. During her investigations, Wednesday meets engaged outing, founder presents and the until Wednesday comes along, solo member of the Nevermore Humors. The school beekeeping club is a sweet nearby solitary kid and that reminds Wednesday of her brother, so she takes him under her wings. Her returns that the guidance is the and her reminds Wednesday of her brother, so she takes him under her wings. He returns that the kindness in undying loyalty to Wednesday as the always says humans stick together, which ultimately ends up saving her life in the final. But first, Engage takes quite the beating attack by the height during the school dance. The range and the Nightshade Society, Wednesday investigation all had her to Nevermore Security Society. The Nightshade Ron trying leads her to and the Elder all posters where she solved riddles, the solutions, snap twist, a little nod to classic Adams Family, them song, and finds their secret handed out. Current members of the long studying society include Xavier, Binance, and the Agic, among others. When Xavier says Wednesday should join, she returns them down. Later in the season, we learn a bit more about the Nightshade lore. They were not always a social club, they were created by the Wednesday Annisters, Good Adams, in order to protect outsiders from harm, and the Victoria and the Montreal used to be a member. They might not be quite the foresee they once were, but the current Nightshade do try to do what's right. We're always a social club. They were created by Wednesday and Stirs, Good Adams in order to protect outsiders from harm, and the Victoria and Morticia used to be a member. They might not to quite forced by once were, but the current nightshades do try to do what's right and they show up for Wednesday when it comes. The Love Strangers. Wednesday season 1 somewhat inflammatory spent a lot of time on love triangles, but we are not going to spend too much on them here. They won't have a tone of the breathing on the future season since a key member Xavier is not returning to the show. Here they need to know Binance and Xavier broke up because he thought she was using her Ryzen song to manipulate him. She still tries to win him back a few times and seems genuine, but as soon as Wednesday arrives at the Nevermore, Xavier really only has eyes for her. Wednesday never really gives Xavier so much of the time of the day, unless the suspect him of the murder. She does take and the honest taking. However, she does take and the honest liking to Taylor. She does take and the honest liking to Taylor. The Jersey Normia who works at the coffee shop. She repeatedly turns to him and they even have a sweet date and he shows her Legally Blonde, which she says apparently was like the Tortures, Revingsters and the Gaudy Adams. Wednesday visions are the relatively new to her and they begin just a few months ago, so naturally she tribes about hidden them. Wims is the quick to do the truth after their Jersey tribes and reveals that the Morticia started having visions around the same age. They were Notricia unreliable and the dangerous Wims warned her. Wednesday has plenty of her own struggle with her new gifts, which she cannot comment it and always seems to eat in the impetuous monster. During Nevermore annual Pop Cup, Wednesday is in the lead, but when she gobs a flag more Juson's Crackstone Tom, she immediately taken by a vision. She sees a girl who looks just like her, but with blonder hair and the all-time clothing Good Adams. You are the key, she tells Wednesday, who wakes up just in. Good Adams, you are the key, she tells Wednesday, who walks up just in the time to okay. The Pooh Cup winner Alfia Hall, Xavier, later clocked that Wednesday is having vision because his father is a psycho. The first thing he will tell you is that the visions can't be trusted, they only show you one side of the picture. She tells her, warning that the psycho ability is not rooted in logic but emotions. During a visit to the school, Morticia also finally realizes what's going on, but even a psycho she can't be much help. There are two types of the psycho, revenge and the doves. Wednesday is a revenge and the Morticia is a dove. Our psychoability relies on the spectrums of who we were. Morticia explained, given my the disappoint, my visions and tend to be positive. That makes me a dove. You are a Ron. Your visions are most potent, more powerful, but without the power training they can lead to madness. Unfortunately, Morticia can be the one to train her. Psycho are not trained by the living, but by someone from their bloodlines who research out from the beyond. For Wednesday that good Adams, the belong Pellegrim area which will appear in the from their bloodline who research out from the beyond. For Wednesday that Goody Adams, the blunt Pellegrim air which will appear in her visions and shares a dark history with the Jerusalem founder Jospin Crackstone. Morticia warned Wednesday to be carefully seeing. Good was a witch of the great stand, but her vegancy pushed her too far and even she could not save herself. The troubled truth about Josiah Crackstone that most egregious cover up that the Wednesday unearthed during her the investigation is that the true history of the Joseon crackdown, the dawn of the Joseon and what they did to outcast. The truth has been burning under generations of the Neticia that the benefit both Jerusalem and the Nevermore in the present day. Nevermore pays the taxes that the fund Jerusalem and the outsider school gets to fly under the radar without influence from the Nevermores. Wednesday learned the truth in a horrible vision. Crackstone and the pilgrim of the Jerusalem burned in the outsider continue to death. In her vision, Wednesday sees Crackstone declare Goody a witch. Then he threw her into a building full of the outcasts, including her mother, who are chained to the floor. Her mother implored her to run, and they averaged them. Outcasts included her mother, who are chained to the floor. Her mother implored her to run, and they avenged them, saving the future of the outcast. And Good escapes through a hatch in the floor. In the vision, she warns Wednesday he won't stop until he kills us like. All thought I noticed scared me, but that was before I started into the eyes of the Josiah Crackstone. Wednesday says, after the encounter and the torch, Josiah knew status of him in hindrance. Escape for the Morrigan song by Nance Presley came out to Nevermore on the run from her past, included a cult by the name of the Morning Song, but when her mother, Garbia Brasley, comes to town for the Nevermore Parents' Day, she comes with the diamonds, and we get to learn a bit more about the secret Binance bean dogging. Binance, whose bright name is the Brandy Jane, started her way into the Nevermore, and the Garbia used that information to export her the daughter, threatening to expose her the unless Binance agreed to come back and help Morgia's song. Garbia Cell is married to the cult leader gets in and uses her the serene powers to help convert new cult members. But her powers are drying up, which means they need Binaika back. Which means they need Binaika back. Binaika make a compromise with her mother. She will come back to Moringi's song after the end of the school year, and after that she done. The true tale of the Gons and the Morticia Addams and not so tragic fate of the Gates family. When Gomes and the Morticia come back to Nevermore for the Patron's Day, we get a glimpse into the Loverbird's past. When they were students at the Nevermore, Gomes was accused of the murdering a young man named Great Gates in the parents after the local coroner kills him and admit he feuds the art spy Robert on the Gates cases. Sheriff Gaplin comes calling for the Gons, the man he always suspected of the crime. Wednesday, who has been digging into her the parents' dark past since the shifty mentioned his species to her, confirmed that about it during a family therapy session with the Dr. Kindbot. Morticia is the outdrag and says her she refused to entertain a decide all witch hunt, inciting that the Gums did nothing wrong. But when they are back at the Nevermore, shifting Gaplin comes to arrest Gomes for the crime. Wednesday visits her father in the lockup and gets his vision of the table. Grant was in future with the Morticia, mistaking her kindness for the insult, growing obsessed and eventually stalking her. But he was the greatest a son of the oldest and the richest family in the Jersey. So there was nothing they could have do about it, and his father was an outcast heading back of who only reached higher after the Morticia exused his son. On the night of the Ravia, great attack Gomes and the Morticia incensed from his love for her as the Gomes tells it. The two boys had a huge knockdown, draw-out fight ending in the great death when he ran into the sword Gomes wild. Escape that not quite what happened Wednesday. No, her father tells on her way out. She tells the sheriff no, he's got the wrong guy and he a fool to believe such a convenient tale. But the sheriff Gaplin rotated that he wants justice for the Woolgates family and the target they ensure at the hands of the outsider. After Grad's death, his the mother huge herself. His father drank himself to death and his the sister left. Orphan was sent overseas where she drowned. Next, Wednesday confirmed her the mother and learned the full truth. Morticia was the one holding the sword, but Gom stepped in without hesitating to cover for her. She looked included a key detail about the fight that allowed Wednesday to solve the mystery for good. Great force, foaming at the mouth, and she will never. Next Wednesday confirms her the mother and learns that the full truth. Morticia was the one holding the sword, but Gom stepped in without hesitating to cover for her. She also included a key details about the fight. They allow Wednesday to solve the mystery for God. Great was the foaming at the mouth. She will never forget what his eyes looked like, foaming at the mouth, delicate pulse, mental confusing all textbook sign of the nightshade poisoning. Great Gates was the already trying before. Morticia stared him. They did up his the crops, confirming that the polygon and when Wednesday touches the finger she has a vision that clearly up any learning questions. Great Father was not just a bigot, he was a murderous zealot and sent his the son into the rave and dance to the poison, the punch ball and kill all the outsider students. But the great got into the fight with the gangs on the way in during which the Virgil shared in his the pocket poisoning him. It's yet another cover up. The Mayor, who was sheriffing at the time, knew the boy was the poison key that great father blamed outcast for the stealing his family land, but he chose to hide that information to protect the town of the Jersey. Now that Wednesday visions reveal the scope of what happened, it does not take long for the mayor to put the pieces together. He investigated the old gate missions, but he murdered before they can tell the sheriff what he found. Wednesday is not too far the behind him in the putting it all together, though not as close as she thinking either, as she will soon learn the hard way. Wednesday tricks the Lord and the Annette into the escorting her to the gates missions, where they discover A, the car that hit the mayor, and B, the bedroom of the supposedly dead sister. Lucia Gate has been recently inhabited. Wednesday remains convinced that Xavier is the hide and comes certainly that the Dr. Kinbot is his master after she sees them duck, duck into a secret therapy season. Indeed, after Kinbot is killed by the hide, the polished fine tunes of the evidence in Xavier our studio and they drag him off while inside he being filmed. With Xavier in the custody, Wednesday is feeling quite good about things and goes to see the Lord at the coffee shop. They finally kiss, and that when she has a new vision of Talor converted in the bloody looming over the drying Dr. Canbot, Talor is the height. She runs out in the moment, gather her the supplies and alives, and then capture him the Xavier at studio with the help of the nightshade. However, when Wednesday suggests a little light tortures, they go to Weems. Wednesday is taken into the custody, and that when Taylor drops the good guy act, he tells her that at she runs out in the moment, gathers her supplies and alives, and then capture him at the Xavier art studio with the help of the nightshade. However, when Wednesday suggests a little light torture, they go to Weems. Wednesday is taken into the custody, and that when Taylor drops the good guy act, he tells her that at the first he would wake up converted in the blood, unsure what was the happening, but the end he started to remember the graphy details, scream, panic, and a fear so primal I could taste it, and it was delicious. Yucky girl. It was Thornhill all along. Her supplies and allies, and then capture him at Xavier Art Studio with her help of the nightshade. However, when Wednesday suggests a little light tortures, they go to Weems. Wednesday is taken into the custody, and then the Lord drops the good guy act. He tells her that at first he would wake up covered in the blood, unsure what was happening, but then he started to remember the gory details, screaming panic, and a fear so primal I could taste it. And it was delicious, yeah, girl. It was the throne all along. Weems arranged things so that all charges are dropped, but Wednesday is said to explain immediately from the Nevermore. She just has one required to stop by the Anwich Hospital from before she goes. He finally woke up after the heart attack, and he goes to a single details that the cracks the cause for the good. The night he was attacked, he saw the Hide Master and she was wearing red boots. It was not Kindbot is the Marilyn Thornhill, the resident Normia Burton teachers. Wednesday stage a race to trap her, and the confirms Thornhill who admit the truth. She talked, manipulated, and enslaved the Lord. What she does not know is that no Talor with the Wednesday a shapeshifter principal wisdom thrown just below her cover before she can't be overpowered. She injects Weems with the nightshade poison, and when Wednesday stage are due to trap her, and they confirm Thornhill who admit the truth. She talked, manipulated, and enslaved the Lord. What she does not hear is that not the Lord with the Wednesday is the shapeshifter. Principal Weems, Thornhill just below her cover. Before they can be overpowered, she injects Weems with the nightshade poison, and when Wednesday runs to the side of the dying woman, Thornhill knocks her out. Fortunately, Thing was there. He is curing over the and Wu feeling wolfy while she making out with the action on the night of the bloody moon. Meanwhile, Incuch overhears the bull tell on the phone and leaves the hospital to come to Wednesday Aid. Thurnell has Wednesday champed up and relieved that the full eventually of her descent for the outcast. She is, of course, Lorcia Gates, sister of the great Gates and their family. Lank age goes all the way back to the telegram, as Wednesday is a descendant of the Goldie Addams. So Lucia is a descendant of the Joss Crackstone, and she remains him as a Dandy dedicated to protecting the Nomsia, but the monster she reveals the Gates family remained loyal to the Crackstone mission throughout the centuries, seeing her brother died saving the causes. But she taking supernatural approach. She took a body part from the each of the hide victims to complete a rattle that the will brings Josephine Craig down back from he had to so can and outcast kind. Wednesday is the key when Godi killed him. But she taking a supernatural approach. She looked to a body part from each of the hide victims to complete a riddle that the villain brings Josephine Craigstone back from the dead so he can an outcast find. Wednesday is the key. When God killed him, she put a curse on his soul, locking him in his tomb with a blood steel that can only be opened by a directed, decent Wednesday. The recorrection is quick and the crackstone vacancy is sweet. He thinking Wednesday is good and stabs her in the stomach. As she lies dying, Good tells her the crackdown must be stable throughout his black heart to the vengeance her forever and that Wednesday necklace is a powerful object capable of the conjuring speech. That means she can pass through and heal Wednesday, but it comes at a cost. After that, Wednesday will never see Goody again. Wednesday is revealed and held, her wonders closing in the fountain of her eyes, and she set out to defeat Crackstone, who is now a magical stuff wielding pilgrim monster. Meanwhile, Anne tracked toward Wednesday with the things and she trot wolfing out. After mother of the pressures and the shaming it's finally happening and she howling at the blood moon. In fact, she gets her wolf on just in time to save Wednesday from the Tellor, who transform into the Hide and the attack. Wednesday can even tell it's her best friend defeating her, thanks to a stack of the pen in the werewolf fair. As the two monsters duck it out, Wednesday runs back to the school to save the student from the crackstone. Tellor almost gets the upper hand on the Anet, but Sheriff Chaplin puts a bullet in his own son to stop him. In the school contrite, Crackton is the Viking havoc lighting the school after Lame. Wednesday tries to fight him and has a throw time of it, but the friends she eventually made. Contrite Crackstone is the Viking havoc lighting the school aflame. Wednesday tries to fight him and has a throw time of it, but the friends she relevantly made throughout the season show up and have her back. Xavier comes in with a bow and the arrow that he more of the hindrance than a help, and in a low moment when Craigtown looms over Wednesday, Binance stabs in him in the back, giving Wednesday the opening she needs to stab him through the heart. His corpse burns up and the disager, leaving only his the ring behind, but the Lucia Thornell not doing yet. She trains a gun on Wednesday, revolve to kill the pesky Addams if she can't, and outsider kind, and show up just in the time to reveal that not just a fan of the bee. His crops preps at and the disaster, leaving only his the ring behind, but Lottel Thornell not doing yet. She tries again on the Wednesday reveal to kill the Packy Adams if she can't hand. Outsider can't and it show up just in time to reveal is not just a fan of the beast. He commands them and he seeks them all off to learn, saving the day after the school is the cancel for the rest of this September. But we get to quick season 2 twist. Days before we go, Wednesday has a stalker and the Talor is locked up in the custody. Wednesday 2022 Season 1 Review of the Netflix series Wednesday. I will admit I never expected to actually care about the Wednesday adaptations. I see the terms addiction loosely because I think Wednesday is the inspired by the Addams family but does not actually follow the characters and storyline established from the previous relations. Jenna Ortega is Wednesday Addams in these adaptations and people are going nuts for her portrayal. I understand that she does a good job, but I have some qualms, mainly with how the characters is the portrayed in the script. There's a lot to unlock in this show, so let's just dive right into it. Wednesday Adam is sent to November as Monster roams the woods. Season 1 picks up with a new plot to the Addams family. Wednesday and the Pixley, after attending a normal high school for the regular teenagers, find themselves in a situation after Presley is built on Day at the school, Wednesday decides to take revenge by the dumping planets into the pool that the for the regular teenagers find themselves in a situation after Paxley is the build one day at the school. Wednesday decide to take revenge by the dumping prehends into the pool that the guy is swimming in the wins his team. He only loses our technical but the Wednesday is sent away to her parent alarm matter. Nevermore, she is given a roommate who is a wolf and it that her personality chases with her immediately. However, at the same time, a monster is the rooting in the woods and the attacking people in the nearby town and the students. Wednesday runs into it after a classmate tries to kill her and gets killed by the monster. The rest of the series is her trying to figure out who and what the monster is, while entering love triangles with a Bria boy is down and the another one of her classmate. There are other moments throw in the throughout because they really needed something to keep this show going for the 8 episode. There are class tournament that the honestly kind of the Islamic B-boy family night they're a classmate tournament that's the honestly kind of the lamb B-boy family night where we find out Wednesday's father killed a guy while at school and Wednesday attempting to solve all of these with the things. The hand that follow her around honestly I don't know how they research this much for the 8 episode. It goes quick, but it start to get a little old after a while. I think Wednesday one lines we are good but they become respective and the predictable after about episode 5. Solve all of these the with things, the hand that follow her around. Honestly, I don't know how they secret this much for the 8 episode. It does quick, but it start to get a title old after a while. I think Wednesday one lines are good but they become repetitive and the predictable after about episode 5. The final plot twist here is the monster who ends up coming one of the boys in the love triangle is being controlled by the bounty teachers. The bounty teachers apparently wants to review her answers and the head criminal guy that hates anyone who was not fully human. She does review him, kills the principal Weems, and then there's this epic takedown and the implications for season 2 this comes up at the end as an monster boy Taylor seems to escape that when he being content within by the police. There are a lot to think about the decisions made during this show. I have a couple major points that had me very confused throughout watching this show. Number 1 is not the point of the Adam family to show how much of the family there are while defying the expectations of the unclear family. The Addams family, who created in the 30s and the name as popular culture in the 60s. Yet in this show, Wednesday is fairly isolated from her family members and actually has a rift between her mother and her. Number 2. Why is a Black Mirror concert about the pilgrim? Also, why does Morticia say to him that he does not understand what it means to be understood or the belief by people? There is a very specific connection when you say that to a black person. Number 3. If Nevermore is such a school for the outcast, why are its students so normal? Number 4. What was the point of the love triangle? Wednesday is means to both of these boys and they are obsessed with her. The show then unfolds like a boy and panic. I literally voice continue to the function stops that were appearing throughout the episode. Number 5. The writing just seems kind of lazy at some points. I think the characters were fleshed out in a way they could in such a short time frame, but they feel so static and the archetypical. Overall thoughts. It's just a medicore series at the end of the day. I did really like the dance scenes where there was blood raining down on the everyone. That felt like such a group careers mount. But beside that, I was not impressed. I think the creators should have just fully embraced that the criticisms and camp that can come with the Addams family. But this feels like such a watered down adaptations. I did stick around for the 8th episode, which is impressive considering I will quite a show. If I hate it enough, it was an entertaining show. Don't get me wrong, but I think it simply goes down to the path group carry moment, but beside that, I was not impressed. I think the creators should have just fully embarrassed the criticisms and scam that can come with the Adams family. But this feels like such a wanted downs adaptations. I did stick around for the 8 episodes, which is impressive considering I will quite a show. If I hate it enough, it was an entertaining show. Don't get me wrong, but I this it simply goes down to the path. Before you watch the new season of Wednesday, here's everything that happened in season 1 that you might have forgotten. Wednesday is the super relevant to go to the new More Academy where her mom, Morticia and dad Gomes, played by the Lucia Guzman and the Gathina Zeta Jones, went to as the teenager and fell in love. The only reason she is being transferred to a new school is because she was expelled for doing a prank on a student who beat her brother Pixley. However, when Wednesday arrives at the Nevermore, she required to see a therapist per her month's request find out the headmaster Laricia Giordling Christians is Morticia all roommate and is placed in her mother all room with a new wolf-wear roommates named Annette. Emma Mears, who can't trans, yet but has a very cheery personality which the Wednesday is not a fan of. Thankfully, she is not alone at the school because Gomes have her things to the keep. Yet but has a very cheery personality which the Wednesday is not a fan of the thankfully she is not alone at school because Gomes gave her things to keep her company and watch over her. That's not all. Police officers have discovered a dead body in the woods near the school, and there were two similar attacks a week period, and they might be connected. Wednesday meets other students Rowan, Bineka, Xavier, and Taylor. Through Xavier not so great situations, however, when she meets Taylor and they explore at the coffee shop, she comes across his dad, the town sheriff who believes her dad Gomes is a murderer from a previous incident. Throughout this the first episode, it is slowly revealed that Wednesday has some sort of the psycho powers where she can see into the future and sometimes see how people will die. Although she tries to escape school multiple times, at the end of the episode she is catched in a fight with the Ron who tries to kill her because he found the image of a girl who looked just like Wednesday in a book his mom wrote. The predictions she was going to destroy Nevermore and all of its students. Luckily for Wednesday, a monster comes out of the nowhere and kills Ron on the spot. And after all this, Wednesday finally deems the Nevermore Academy worth her time. 2 episode 2 Who I See Lionel number. At the beginning of the episode, we discover that Ron is dead, but his body is nowhere to be found, and the sheriff does not believe Wednesday's statement of a monster attacking him. Oh, and it does not help that Ron turns up alive the following day, which of the course sparked Wednesday to investigation the mystery even features. Wednesday tries to talk to Ron, but the headmaster informs her that he was explained for the reason she can't share. So Wednesday sends things to follow Ron before he goes home for the good. In the meantime, she talks to Xavier, Ron's roommate before he was explained, and discover Ron has been on the edge for the past few weeks. When things follow Ron to the train situations, we learn that the headmaster is a shapeshifter and has been panting to be round to cover up with the muddy bed. Wednesday or things does not know this yet. Next day, Wednesday goes into the woods with the tailor to find evidence that the Ron is actually dead. She finds his the glasses, which triangles her to have a visions. Then she touched them. She discovered that Ron was one of tried to kill her earlier in the first episode. She also discovered the look from which the propy of her destroying Nevermore came, with the mysterious man making an the appearance. Apparently, according to Nevermore, first Normia teacher Mr. Thornell, it used to belong to an old student society that no longer exists called the Nightshade. During this episode, there is a student came with a mysterious man making in the appearance, apparently according to Nevermore. First, Normia teacher Mr. Throne, it used to belong to an all-student society that no longer exists called the Nightshade. During this episode, there is a student competition named the Pure Cup, while Wednesday and the Annie team up, and within the board competition, Wednesday has another vision when she retrieves her the team's flag. She sees herself in an all-white ensemble, saying that she is the key, but the key to what? And that not all. She also discovered and the Adrian all post status that he holds a book with the riddles. Naturally, Wednesday solves each riddle and the snap had the figures tweak to open the secret door. Where does it the lead? The Nightshade headquarters of the course, which also banners to be a and that not all. She also discovered and the other all power status that he holds a book with the riders. Naturally, Wednesday solves each riddle and shop. Her figures tweak on open to the secret door. Where does it lead? To the Nightshade headquarters of course, which also happens to be a secretly liberty. What does she find? The book Rion was the taking about as well as a picture of the Nightshade. We show that her parents were the apparently members. Unfortunately, her time in the Nightshade's headquarters is cut short when she is captured by someone. The episode starts off with Wednesday in the same positions she was is in that at the end of episode 2 captured by whom her names Bina and the rest of her squad. Apparently they are the new Nightshade and it's been a secret to everyone except the headmaster who allowed it. While some members want Wednesday to join their society, Wednesday has no interest in the matter and leaves with the book in her hands. The next day, Wednesday is forced to do things by headmaster. Not only does she and the rest of the students have to complete volunteer work, but she also has to play her role at a later event to unveil the new Josh Crackstone status of founding players of the Jeresia. The good news is she found out from Xavier, Ron's ex-roommate, that the Josh is also in the book she found. For Annette, her volunteer assessment was to work at the Pilgrim Ward, a damn park, but after learning of the Josh Crackstone, who was also a pilgrim, Wednesday asked Annette if they could trade assessments so she could not take her place at Pilgrim Ward. Wednesday decided to break into the museum that is decided to crack down with the help of a new friend, Annette. There she finds an image that matches the visions she had in the previous episode. The young girl covered in wheat with the blonde hair who looked exactly like her, and she holding a book, the Codex Umbrium. Now, Wednesday need to find the originally meeting house of the Jersia, so she goes to the cafe to ask the Lord for help. Who else is there? Xavier wants her to stay away from the Talor. which she ignores. The Lord tells her the house in the woods, and she goes with things. Right when she about to leave with no luck, Wednesday has a vision that shows the blonde look like name God Addams, a distant relative being accused of the witchcraft. Joseph looks good, and everyone else who was accused of being a witch, included her mother, in the house set in the abyss. Josh looks goody and everyone else who was accused of being a witch, included her mother, in the house and set it ablaze, but the goody escaped because she is the one only who is not changed to the building. Unfortunately, everyone else died in the fire. When Wednesday vision finished, she opened, with the monster starting at her patrons away. Even though she tries to catch him, she loses him in the woods and finds out that the monster has the ability to change into a human because of the footprints changing mind chases on the ground. Xavier shows up to find Wednesday and tells her he's starting to believe that Ron is in fact dead. Wednesday gets back to town just in time to play the cello for the ceremony with the high school band. However, Wednesday asked him to help destroy Wednesday and tells her he is starting to believe that the Ron is in fact dead. Wednesday gets back to town just in time to play the cello for the ceremony with the high school band. However, Wednesday asked him to help destroy the statue by flooding the statue fountain with the gasoline and using a power trail to set it on fire. The headmaster instantly clocked that Wednesday is behind it but can't prove it her. At the end of the episode, you find a homeless man from an earlier scene at the original meeting house with a camera. While he tries to work the camera, the monster comes and attacks him, and the camera glitches and takes picture of the murder. Next, you see Mr. Thornell shaping her figures quick in the front of the post-status, and finally you see the sheriff at the crime scenes, finding the camera and then printing the image in the dark room. The image shows the camera while he tries to work the camera. The monster comes and attacks him, and the camera glitches and takes picture of the murder. Next, you see Mr. Thornell shaping her figures, which in front of the post-status, and finally you see the sheriff at the crime scene, finding the camera and the printing the image in the dark room. The image shows the monster. Since the last episode ended with a murder, this episode being with the Wednesday and things breaking into the coroner office to investigation the body. Unfortunately, though, the sheriff and the coroner also arrive, and Wednesday hides away. She finds out through her conversation that the monster human is cutting body part each of its victim. The following day, Wednesday notices that Xavier has a neck wound and does not believe this his excuse. So she epic on him by following him to a shape where he keeps painting that he made for the monster. She got a few to use for the evidence, but right as she was about to leave, Xavier sees her, and to cover her track, she asks him to the rave and dance, and he exactly says yes. When Wednesday head back into the town, she mostly convinces the sheriff to work. Leave Xavier sees her, and to cover her track, she asks him to Xavier dance, and he exactly says yes. When Wednesday head back into town, she mostly convinces that the sheriff to work together on the investigations. After showing him the drawing of the monster, she just need to find hard evidence. Since Annie did not want the monster drawing in the dorm room, Wednesday asked Ichu if she could keep them in the bee house. While looking at the drawing, he recognized a pattern that meshes a cave nearby. Once they visit the cave, they find a broken cliff and she grabs it to run a DNA test on. Wednesday heads back to Xavier's shed to grab some of his the DNA from a blood squirt napkin to compare it to the glove, but Xavier catch her red-headed. Xavier plains that the monster has. Wednesday heads back to Xavier's shed to grab some of his DNA from a blood squirt napkin to compare it to the claw, but Xavier catches her red-handed. Xavier explains that the monster has been appearing in his dreams, vision, and he has been processing them by drawing. Unfortunately, one of the monsters came to life in a drawing. Xavier has the ability to bring drawing to life, which is how he get attacked. It was also uncovered that the Wednesday did not really want to invite Xavier to the rave and dance, which broke his heart. Even though Wednesday believed Xavier's story could be real, she continued to give both pieces of evidence to the sheriff. As she was planning to head back to the cave with the Anning at night to state out the monster, the Lord showed up at her door, dressed up to take Wednesday. As she was planning to head back to the cave with the Ague at night to stake out, then monsters. The Lord show up at her door, dressed up to take Wednesday to the ramp and dance. Things printed to be Wednesday and wrote a letter to Taylor asking him to the dance because of his surprise visit. Wednesday tells Anich they will visit the cave all thought night, but Anich decide to go alone without Wednesday knowledge. When Talor and Wednesday arrive at the dance, a lot of history is uncovered. When Headmaster Weems was in school, she was said that Morticia went to the dance with her crush. Gomes and Talor once built Xavier. As for Annie, she went to the dance with Lucia to make Ajit jealous after she believed he stood her up for their date barrier, but Annie found out later than it was. As for the Annette, she went to the dance with the Lucia to make Ajax jealous after she believed he stood her up for their date barrier. But Annette found out later that it was all a misunderstanding and made up with the Ajax and left Lucia when she found out that it was his the idea to do the body prank at the end of the dance to get revenge on the freak who blew up the status in the previous episode. However, things end up horrible for the NH. When the dance abruptly ends, Wednesday has a vision that the NH is attacked by monster even though she tries to save him. She loads late. Episode 5 You Keep What You Vow. Wednesday always thought she knew who her parents were until the attend November Academy. Now that the Lord has given Wednesday Combs police fire from when he was in school and was accused of killing a Normia named Greta Gates, she decided to investigate the truth behind her dad's history with the law to find out what really happened that night. The interior episode flashback and the fourth between 1999 and the present day of 2022, while one storyline weaves through what happened the night the Normia was killed and other focus on the parents waking at the Nevermore Academy in 2022. The headmaster states that the NH is on the mind, but Wednesday says to Annie that he is in a coma and she the reason he there in that state. The headmaster also sees an opportunity to talk with the Adams family about Wednesday's recent behavior, where she suggests that the family see Wednesday therapist. However, as they drive to the therapist's office, they sheriff notice Combs in the car. Soon after, the sheriff receives a phone call and finds out that the coroner has killed himself. At the therapy session, Wednesday family is decisions how much they how well Wednesday decide that the coroner has killed himself. At the therapy session, Wednesday family is deciding how much they miss her while Wednesday demand that her father tell her that it really happened that night with the Gough death. Morticia become focused and the status that the session is over. While Wednesday visit Anish to give him some honey and the sheriff had to find the corner office to find out what happened to the corner. There he reads the corner's suicide note stating that he felt guilty about the flashing a report for the Greta Getz case. This the single the sheriff to immediately arrest Combs while he at the Nevermore Academy. Wednesday visit her father in jail and the inquire about the night Great died. Wednesday visits her father in jail and inquires about the night Gratitude died. Gomes explained that the Great was the infatuated with the Morticia but became a sulker when she did not reciprocate his the feeling. Gomes and the Morticia tried to report it to the police, but they were ignored. They on the night of the rave and dance, Greta saw Gomes kissing Morticia and out of the range tried to kill him, but one hand led to another, and when Gomes picked up a sword, Greta accidentally ran into it, killing him. As Gomes explained, it was a terrible accident. But when, though the story feels scrambled, Wednesday believes her father is lying to her, yet decide not bring it up at that moment. Writes after Wednesday head to the sheriff office to tell him this is all a huge distractions from the main case. Someone is trying to drill her from the investigation and how far she had come in solving it. But the sheriff does not care but Wednesday believes, and the instant notice Wednesday that the rest of the grand family is dead. The mother died by suicide, the father drank himself to death, and the sister drowned. Wednesday finds her mother in the nightshade headquarters and asks her mom to tell her to the truth about that night. Morticia confused that she was the one who accidentally stabbed Greta with the sword, but Wednesday suspects that the something was off as the Morticia mentioned that the Great was the foaming at the mouth like a rabid beast. To find out if their possession theory is true, they go to the Greta grave to dig him up. However, they are both arrested. Luckily, Wednesday grabs one of the Greta fingers. Around the same time, she visions this time is inflated Greta dad. Wednesday grabs one of the Greta fingers. Around the same time, she gets a visions. This time is involved Greta's dad, demanding that his son kill all the outcasts at Nevermore by speaking the punch bowl with the nightshade poison. However, when the Greta was pushed into a pillar during the fight with the Gomes, the nightshade poison entered his body and like him slowly. The next morning, Wednesday and the Morticia were able to get out of the jail to have a direct conversation with the mayor. Wu was the sheriff in the Greta case back into the day. He confused that he know that truth the whole time but decided to have the coroner write a fake report because he had a reputation to protect. The mayor asked what the woman wanted and they said all character drop. When parents' weekend comes to an end, Morticia gives Wednesday her yearbook. Here she finds that the headmaster is actually a shapeshifter. This leads to Wednesday confronting that the headmaster about that really happened to Ron and finding out that Ron dad knows and acting to the cover up right in the middle of this argument. Noise is heard from the outside. Wednesday and the headmaster head to the balcony and discover a master in the grace made out of fire. Fire will rain. Episode 6 Quite Bravo. Wednesday wastes no time trying to get to the bottom of his mystery. At the start of this episode, she is doing a scenes to concern with the Godi, her distant relative, but the scene is cut short with a visit from the Annette and a mysterious letter that randomly appears from the under the poor that reads, "If you won't answer me inside Crackstone Crafty." Midnight. However, it was a rush to get Wednesday out of the dorm to go to her surprise birthday party. Wednesday does not care about the party though. In fact, she finds Andy inspiring inside the crafty that says, "Fire will run when I race, when she touch it." A vision in grace where good appears again, but this time she tells Wednesday inside the vision to stop Crackstone. Wednesday does not care about the party though. In fact, she finds an inspiration inside the crafty that says, "Fire will run when I race, when she touch it." A vision in grace where Gordy appears again, but this time she tells Wednesday inside the vision to stop Crackstone. This place you must seek. While looking at an old mansion, the next day the mayor and the headmaster meet to find out who wrote the image in the grace. While Wednesday goes to visit Anich, who is still in a coma, she bumps into her therapist, Dr. Kinbot, who asks who Goody is after overhearing Wednesday talk out loud in the hospital room. But even though Wednesday answers in a vague way, she ends the conversation quickly. Moments later, Wednesday goes to visit Xavier at this painting studio to ask about the old mansion. He tells her it's the old Gates mansion. However, things reveal a hidden painting of Wednesday playing her cello, and Xavier convinces his feeling for her, which Wednesday shuts down. When Wednesday visits the mansion, she nearly bumps into the mayor but finds a way to hide in the trunk of his car to find out what he know after he the researched the house. However, while the mayor walks to the cafe to meet with the sheriff after parking his car, he gets hit by another car which he serves. Wednesday tells her the sheriff that it seems everything is leading to the Gate family but does not believe her. Once the headmaster got news of the mayor's situation with Wednesday, she put Wool's school under lockdown, but that didn't stop Wednesday inside the. She calls the law to take him up on the birthday date he offered earlier in the episode that she nearly turned down, and he picked her, and they ended up nevermore. Wednesday asked him to take them to the mansion where they can look for the glove. Enid and the Taylor were both manipulated by the Wednesday to do what she wanted. They find the car that hit the mayor and Loria old bedroom, where Wednesday grabs and the old music box. Unfortunately, their investigations comes to a half when Taylor starts screaming that the monster is the coming, and it's starting catching Wednesday and Annette throughout the wall. When they get to the basement, they find all of the monster trophy aka human remains. They narrowly escape and find Taylor outside, covered in the sketches from the monster. Xavier also meets up with them after being tripped off by things. They head back to Taylor's house, where the sheriff appears. Wednesday tells him he needs to see what they found. But when they turn to the mansions, everything has been wiped clean, so he forbade her from seeing the Taylor even again. Back at Nevermore, Wednesday tells the headmaster that she believes Wednesday is the key to saving. Everything has been wiped clean, so he forbids her from seeing the Taylor ever again. Back at Nevermore, Wednesday tells the headmaster that she believes Wednesday is key to saving Nevermore. According to Ron, Mother Bronchi, and the headmaster lets her go back to her room. However, Annette is done with the Wednesday after being manipulated into going to the mansion and pick up her things from the drum they share. Wednesday is officially alone. Unfortunately, when Wednesday is looking through a picture of herself that someone captured, which she found him the Mexico box, the mayor is killed by someone in his hospital room in another scene. Episode 7. If you don't know me by now. The major is dead and everyone from the Josiah is at the funeral, including Wednesday, who spot a mysterious figure watching from after. However, when she chases after them, she realizes it her uncle Father. He is nevermore to law after being cased by the cops, and though he could visit his the niche. When Wednesday updated her uncle about what been going on, however, she chases after them. She realizes it her uncle Foster's. He is nevermore to lay low after being cased by the cops, and though he could visit his niche. When Wednesday updates her uncle about what been going on, he tells her the name of the monster she been hunting is called a hide. It also tells her this a secret diary written by the Natalia Filker, Nevermore founder then the could have more information about the outcast monster, which can be found at the Nightshade headquarters. Wednesday still seems to have issue connecting with her peers. She not only gets into another argument with the Enid, but also with Xavier in the Nightshade headquarters as she questions why he always show up right when the monster leaves. Eventually, they find the diary and read a section that describe what hearts are. According to the book, hearts are artists by the nature but equally vindicative in the permanent bone of the mansions. The heart lies dormant until unleashed by a atomic event or unlocked through the chemical instrument of the hypothesis. This causes the heart to develop and the indicated bond with its the liberator, who the creator now sees as its the master. Basically, Wednesday has to find two killer, not just one. Right after this, the discover Mr. Thornell informed Wednesday that the Enid has the requirement to permanently transform to another drum. The next day, Wednesday and her uncle fellow Xavier, who meets Wednesday therapy in the woods. Unfortunately, when she goes to tell the headmaster that the belief the therapist in the monster master, the therapist is already there. Good news is Wednesday takes advantage of situations and asks her that she believes the therapist is the monster master, the therapist is already there. Good news is Wednesday takes advantage of the situation and takes her therapist is hypnotherapy, to which she answers yes. So they schedule a new visions together. Wednesday comes course of the action is meeting Taylor at the cafe to tell him what she found. He asks her on a date and she says yes. While she goes on the date, she asks things towards the diary. Unfortunately, their date is interpreted by the Taylor date. The sheriff who is looking for the unclear fester. When Wednesday returns to her dorm, thing is disturbed and the diary is gone. She brings things to her uncle, who receptions with these celebrated things could not identity who stabbed him, and Wednesday told her uncle to leave Livermore because the escape were. When Wednesday returned to her dorm, thing is the stab and the diary is gone. She brings things to her uncle who receptions him with the electricity. Things could not identity who stopped him, and Wednesday told her uncle to leave Nevermore because the cops were gaining on him. Later that evening, Wednesday tells the headmaster and the Mrs. Thornell what they happened. Here she finds out that the Nevermore founder was actually killed by a head and the had been banned from the campus for over 30 years, right after she meets with the Bainsa and the mayor's son, Lucia, who have been seeing each other romantically to get information that the Lucia found his dead laptop. Apparently, Lucia gets drowned, but her body was never recovered. They believe Lucia Cat is actually alive, that she bought the old gates from the under a fake name and that she is the Heart Master, all to get revenge for her family death. Even though Wednesday and the doctor Cranbot already had a scheduled session for another day, she showed up announced at her office. Wednesday cornered her, the therapist, exerting her to convince that she is the Lurusia Gates, but she does not after Wednesday leaves. The therapist calls the principal but gets attacked by the monster in the middle of the call. Wednesday believes that at the point she has it all figured out. She takes the sheriff to Xavier at the studio to tell him everything. Since the sheriff found evidence at the shed, they arrested Xavier on the spot. At this point, Annette and the Wednesday make up and live as roommates again, and Wednesday head to the cafe to see the Taylor, but when she finally kisses her, crashes, she gets a vision of him killing Dr. Kinbot. Taylor is the heart, not Xavier. Is the final episode of season and Wednesday just found out her crash is the height. She asks him to meet her in the woods so she can confirm him about being the height, but Wednesday requests Pinsa show up to use her sheer power to say that. Once they have him changed to a chair in the Xavier Art Studio, he begins to play with the Wednesday who decide it times to torture him to get to the truth out. Pinsa and her Syrian friends did not feel comfortable with his, so they went to find. Once they have him changed to a chair in Xavier Art Studio, he begins to play with the Wednesday who decide it's time to torture him to get the truth out. Beyonce and her Syrian friends did not feel comfortable with this, so they went to find the headmaster to tell her what was happening. She calls the sheriff to save the young boy. The sheriff brings everyone to the police stations and the Lord financially secretly admit to beings they had to Wednesday and that he remembered everything and loved killing everyone. Victims, he told her, you have no idea what's coming. At this point, the headmaster has no choice but to explain Wednesday, but inside of the packing up her things. She visits Xavier in jail to ask for his help, but he denies her. Before Wednesday leaves the school, good she finds out the equant family. Before Wednesday leaves the school for the good, she finds out that the Equion finally woke up from his coma. So she goes to visit him to say goodbye. There he tells her that the person who set the cave on fire was wearing red boots, which singled exactly who Lurusa Gate is to the Wednesday Mr. Thornell. She goes to Nevermore to confirm that the Nomeria teacher and the brings the Lord with her, who is actually the headmaster in a shapeshifter from Mr. Thornell confused and tells Wednesday that she is actually a descendant of the Jaws Crackstone. But when the headmaster show her true identity, she is killed by Miss Thornell with the nightshade vision and the Wednesday is hit over the head with a show. Finds out the throw Anich and thinks that the something has gone terrible wrong with the headmaster and Wednesday. So Anich and the Ajax go to try and save her. After Wednesday was knocked out, Mr. Thornell Luria has taken her to Josephine Crackstone Crapto and that change her to it. Mr. Thornell tells Wednesday that she planned to bring Joseph back with all the body parts with that she collected from the victims after goodbye locked away his soul after killing him. However, she needs Wednesday blood and the Adam relatives to unlock the scorpions which needs to happen on a blood moon. Mr. Thornhills lures a cut Wednesday hand and uses her blood to research Josephine, who subtails her and leaves her in the crypto to bleed out as they head to the Nevermore to burn it to the ground. But Goody appears and tells Wednesday how to defeat him by studying his black heart. She can also heal her by using the talisman necklace Morticia gave her. However, it will cause Goddy's spirit to vanish forever. Wednesday sadly agrees and is held by Goddy and it asks the Syrian to help advocate the school. While Wednesday goes after Mrs. Thorner, Lurusia and the Jaws. Unfortunately, she is embarrassed by Taylor, who tries to attack her. Luckily, Annie Star officially turning into a fully flagged werewolf because of the bloody moon and the protect Wednesday by the attacking Claw as a hide. This is also when the sheriff appears after Anish Moon called the police station earlier to notify them of everything her son had told her. Unfortunately, when he arrived at the fight between Anit and the Hyde, he saw that his son was the really Hyde after he don't stored in the Averner. Hour reverted back to the lore so Anit could knock him out. At the Nevermore, Wednesday arrived to see that the Joseph set the school on fire, but she not alone in trying to save it. Binance and the Xavier arrive to do everything they can to stop Josephine and to give Wednesday the opportunity to steal his black heart, which she does. Of course, Mrs. Thornell Lucia does not accept the fact when the Josephine dies, she takes a gun and the arms at Wednesday to kill her. Luckily, Engage comes in to save the day by the instructions he speaks to attack Mr. Thornell Lucia, and he says that what you get for the missing with the Nevermore by Wednesday then the kicks Mr. Thornell Lucia while she is down. In the end, Wednesday pays her respect to the headmaster. She says goodbye to her friends because the rest of the semester has been cancelled, and Xavier gives her a phone with his phone number inside and the instructor had to text him. However, Wednesday received a random text from an unknown caller that says, I am watching you, with image of her with Xavier and Talor and a gift that show a knife being longing into her head. Wednesday believed that secrets still need to be revealed at Nevermore as she is still to learn that she has her first stalker, although she does not know. We see Talor running into the height as he being transported to jail. Are you excited to watch next season of Wednesday? Tell us about your love most about the first season or what remaining secret you need. Wednesday, I am not sure what twist idea it was to put hundreds of the Atlas coin to put hundreds of the Atlascans in the unfounded school run by people whose dreams were crashed years ago, but I admire the sadness. This review is 3 years later, but at least it is here before season 2, which drops tomorrow, August 16. This will be a review of season 1, but not an episode by episode breakdown. If you are curious about the series, it is worth watching if for the nothing else than Jenna Ortega's absolutely fabulous portrayal of Wednesday Addams. Originally conceived as a robot of the Adam family, this production took on new life when Tim Burton came on the board. It is a project with his the fingerprints all over the place, from his usual visual, authentic and the tonal uniqueness to the lightning and the characters, which end up being a absolutely perfect fit. I mean, you would be forgiven for the believing Tim Burton has been involved with the Adam family since the movie from a couple of the decades ago with the Raul Julia, Angelica Houston, Christopher Lloyd, and the Christina Ricci, but he had nothing to do with them. But it was those movies that helped to create the now iconic version of the Wednesday Adam as a deadpan borderline psychotic goth girl with extremely plain skin and a habit of touching her light brother sickly. It was so iconic in fact that it defined much of the Christmas ride with the Adam family since the movie from a couple of the decades ago with the role Julia, Angelina Houston, Christopher Lloyd, and the Christina Ricci, but he had nothing to do with them. But it was those movies that they helped to create the now iconic version of the Wednesday Adam as a deadpan, broad-line, psychopathic goth girl with extremely play skin and a habit of turning her light brother basically. It was so iconic in fact that it defined much of the Christina Ricci career to the point where she even appeared in season 1 of Wednesday as one of the main secondary characters. It was a performance so good that it felt almost impossible to redefine in a way that would make sense as a follow up. Which brings up to this adaptation, which is less an adaptation of the Adam family, as it is a spin off the featuring Wednesday as lead protagonist. At the start of the series, we find out heroine defining her brother because of course only she can torture patiently and getting kicked out of school. We find out shortly afterward that she has been defecting from the normal school to normal school, refusing to go to her parents' alma mater for a number of the reasons which are mostly plot related, except that she now has no other option on the table if she wants to the graduate. Wednesday herself is remaining here as a dependent psychopath goth girl. Wait, that sound familiar. Okay, so what are the difference? She aged up a bit from a peer pub sense girl of the around 10 to 10, 16, 17. She still has her trademark pemmican like a negative version of the Pemmy Longstocking but can now see flashes of the future. She also fashioned herself into a detective using her psycho talent combined with a dedication skill that could reveal Sherlock Holmes to the universe the murder of the local that has point the guilty figure at her school and her family. The school is a bite of a Gough detective called Nevermore Academy, which cater toward the and the supernatural from vampires and the werewolf to scenes and the madness which all seems to exist in the world and are somewhat known by the regular people but not really taken about very much. Using her the psycho talent combined with a dedicated skill that could reveal Sherlock Holmes to universe the murder of the local that has pointed the guilty finger at her school and her family. The school is a bite of a Gough derivative called Nevermore Academy, which guards to the weird and the supernatural from the vampires and the werewolf to sirens and the madness, which all seem to exist in the world and are somewhat known by the regular people but not really talk about very much. The secondary cast are okay but for the most part feel like your usual band of the high school archetypes twist to add the supernatural element to their personalities. For example, the main girl is a siren who can make people do what she wants. When Wednesday finally arrives at the school in the first episode, we are immediately introduced to her opposites Annette. The pairing of the mismatched personalities and the appearance is at first comical and the play for the laugh in a lot of ways. Wednesday gets upset with their room because Annette likes the colors and the stuffed animals when Wednesday is the allergic to the colors. Then they and it habit of the hanging when Wednesday would rather step someone rather than huge them in very way they are decide as almost natural adventures except that not the directions things go and it ends up being the emotional center of the story and the one person that the Wednesday grow to possible love. More on that in a moment. Wednesday work best when it is the she and the Annette working through the mystery and the getting into trouble together, it works less. Well, when it the focus on Wednesday to love, interest, yes to, which is a sketch for a character who does not really show any real romantic interest in anyone. Were there Wednesday herself is the actual or the queer in some way in never explore, but it is telling that the big emotional scene does not involve a case with one of her the senator, but a major emotional breakthrough with the Annette. There are reasons why these characters are the shape pretty heavily. Ultimately, the first season goes to some place that were both unaccepted and a bit mercury, exploring ghosts and the restrictions and diving deep into the Puritan history and the sketchy witchcraft stuff and the some weirdness revolving around one of the Wednesday anchor who may or may not have the actually caused the incating incident that they create the underlying mystery in the first place. There are Patriot and the characters reveal and a big showdown at the end that mostly work and you have a solid first season of the television. Bites. Each of the Adam family has a major cameo beyond the first and the last episode. Foster and the Morticia being the standouts. Thing has a major role and the Act Wednesday sidekick throughout the season for an anthropomorphic hand. It adds a surprising amount of the emotion and characters to the interior series. Plus the special effect work is the phenomenal. Some of the big CGI monsters are not quite as effective but are at least interesting in design. I especially like a subplot involving bees that ends up being the conclusion. The series is chock full of great actors in the adult role. Krista Zeta Jones as the Morticia Lucia, Grassman as the Gomes Christina. Each of the Adam family has a major cameo beyond the first and the last episode, Foster and the Morticia being the standouts. Thing has a major role and the act Wednesday sidekick throughout the season 4 and a thromic hand it the adds a surprising amount of emotions and characters to the interior series. Plus the special effect work is the phenomenal. Some of the big CGI monsters are not quite are effective but are at least interesting in design. I especially like a subplot involving bees that ends up being conclusion. That series is chock full of the great actors in their adult role. Kathina Zeta-Jones as the Morticia, Lucia Guzman as the Gomes, Christina Ricci as the Mirilia, Thronil and the Good Lines, Krista as Principal Weems. Season 2 will be released in two parts, the first of which drops 6th August, which is on Wednesday of course. Yes, there are references to both the original, the music and the iconic finger snap quotes. And it's a small school. There was not much online about you. You should really get on Insta, Snapchat, and TikTok. Wednesday, I find social media to be a soul-sucking void of the mean class after mention. Wednesday, the only person who gets to torture my brother is me. Principal Weems, did your mother tell you we were roommates back in the day? And you graduated with your century intact. Impressive. Any rumors have been simmering around that you like a kid at your old school and that your parents pulled strain to get you off. Wednesday, actually, it was two kids, but whom's counting? The Lord, do you take a habit of the sketching the hell out of people? Wednesday, it's more of a hobby. Morticia, I am told girls, you say hurtful things, and I should not take it to heart. Wednesday, fortunately, you don't have fun. Morticia, finally, I can't word for your mother. Taylor, do you make a habit of scaring the hell of people? Wednesday, it's more of a hobby. Morticia, I am told girls, you say hurtful things, and I should not take it to heart. Wednesday, fortunately, you don't have one. Morticia, finally a kind word for your mother. Annette, are you feeling okay? You look a little pale. Gomes, Wednesday always look half dead. Wednesday, I am not used to people engaging with me. Most me coming and across the sheeter. The Lord, you are not scary. You are just kinda cocky. Wednesday, I prefer Spocky. Jenna Ortega's career laugh due to her trans as Wednesday and the follow-up has been a long time coming. This first season laid a solid foundation, but was flaw in the both focus and the narrative. 3 out of 4 finger snap. Samantha M. Quinn spent most of her time in front of a computer typing away at one thing's another. When she has free time, she enjoys pretty much anything science fiction of the fancy related. Netflix Wednesday combines teenage and the murder. Netflix Adam Family series Wednesday successfully combines two genres in a way that makes more sense than most. The teen coming of age story and the Medulla mystery plot over the last decade or so. There have been a lot of shows that have market the two using volumes to juices up with the journal teen failure of the crashes, college admission and the Midlands parents, but world show like Riverdale can feel focused to the point of the silence. Wednesday's success thanks to its the familiar protagonist and her the amicable loving family. Fan of the Adam clan get plenty of service in this 8-part series thing. The live movie serve hand is a full flag characters. Fan of the Adam clan get plenty of service in this the 8-part series things. The living movie series hand is the fully flag characters with ongoing gigs about the skincare and the manicure balls. Only the metacycle heart of his own, Fred Ehrman show up for the episode 7 as Uncle Festus. Winkley playing in the bad criminal at the show play with the highly sexual character dynamic between Morticia and the Combs. They even abide with the two snap from the famous theme song for those with only a passing affections for a Adam family or the authentic of expensive producer and the director of half the episode, Tim Burton, some of these bad may come to great. We get it, they are dark, but there are enough other stuff for fans and non-fans too. Passion effect for the Adam family or the authentic of the executive producer and director of half the episode Tim Burton, some of these bites may come to great, we get it, they are dark, but there are enough other stuff for the fans and non-fans to enjoy. Jenna Ortega performance as Wednesday elevates the series above pure non-stage. She became a force in honor thanks to role in the 2022 schemes A24S and the ex Netflix U. But while Wednesday may fancy herself to be living in a scary movie, her adventures are the less blunt, drenched, and more camp comedy. Ortega excels in the role, leaning into a deadpan humor male, all the funding by her character's lack of interest in anything approaching laughter. May fancy herself to be living in a scary movie. Her adventures are less bloody drenched and more camp comedy. Ortega excels in the role, leaning into a deadpan humor male, all the funnier by her character's lack of interest in the anything approaching laughter. The show director get a lot of the Millie age out of the Jenna Ortega political particle in the high school dance scene, where she managed to own the floor while staying true to her dark nature, and it's not just for the comedy. More than once, we see the small length of her body on the screen as she faces off against forces much bigger than her. These angles give her conversation extra power, marking her as a underdog even as her the superior insight and the technically set her up to be the story clear winner. The show also leverages classic teen tropes to bring lightness to its dark hell, starting with the clues tour of the clues at the Wednesday New School. There also are conflicted sporting events that are clearly parallel to the Harry Potter Quidditch the aforementioned. The show also leverages classic teen tropes to bring lightness to its dark hells, starting with the clueless tour of the clues at the Wednesday New School. There also are concluded sporting events that are clear parallel to Harry Potter the after-mentioned prom dance come coupled with a what else career moment and there's so much more. The Stuffy administer, the love triangle, the secret society. Along the way everything works. The mystery is hard to figure out but clearly in place all along and conclusions. The action is suspenseful with the real danger looking for the likable, if impossible side characters and the social commentary about the villains of. Along the way, everything works. The mystery is hard to figure out, but clearly in place all along, and the concludes satisfactory. The action is suspenseful, with the real danger looming for the likable, if mostly side characters, and the social commentary about the violence of the settler Coliseum is the gripping. Adding to these elements is the Wednesday elimination out of, or at least through teen angst, she extremely sure of herself, but with the plenty of growing up to do that make her both and the extraordinary and the typical teen, someone who thinking they know everything while the continuously being made to learn more. Over the series we see her come to better understand her parents, even her mother as she. Adding to these elements is Wednesday evaluation out of or art list through teenage. She extremely sure of herself but with the plenty of growing up to do that makes her both and the extraordinary and typical teen, someone who thinks they know everything while continuously being made to learn more. Over the series we see her come to better understand her parents, even her mother, as she come into a more mature, less knee-jerk, contradictory understanding of herself. It's rare to see a show so successfully mix coming to age characters development with the growth and glory goals and a series murder plot on top of it all. By the end, it was smiling broadly happy too. It's rare to see a show so successfully mix coming to age characters development with the gross and gory goals and a serial murder plot on the top of it all. But the end, I was smiling broadly happy to have been back with these old friends and the witness their familiar family driving Hinchik. If there even a characters for whom death and the darkness don't weight her down but are normally part of her high school years is Wednesday Addams and the Netflix. Wednesday makes the most of it the heroine unique adaptations. All 8 episodes scared for the review. Wednesday premiere on the Netflix on November 23. Wednesday Season 1 recap. What to remember before Season 2. Here all the spooky characters and killer twists you don't want to forget. With the Wednesday Season 1, Netflix delivered a creepy, cocky, altogether ocky new spin on the Adam family, taking audience to Nevermore Academy, where teenage Wednesday Addams attend a school full of the monster freaks and the outcast, as the monster and the freaks are caught in the world of the Wednesday. Learning to tap into her power as a unrevealing mystery after mystery, Wednesday spent season 1 on the hunt for the Hyde monster, fell for the wrong guy and dug deep into some horrible truth hidden beneath the page of the local history. If you need a refresh, here's a throughout Wednesday season 1 recap with all the character twists and turns you need to remember. Welcome to Nevermore Academy. In the pre-credit sequence, Wednesday finds her brother basically stuffed in a locker, and when she touches him, she has a vision of the same jocks who put him there. Naturally, her solution is to go set perhaps Lucy's in the school pool, she promptly explained. In the car with her family, she headed to Nevermore Academy and she's a legacy her parents met and fell in love there. And her mom was not just a student, she was the student captain of the freaking team, queen of the dark frame, and the president of the Sin Society. Its legacy Wednesday, its thriller to carry and captain of the faking team, queen of the dark prom, and the president of the Science Society. It's a legacy Wednesday is not thrilled to carry and a shadow she does not want to stand in, but Nevermore is full of fellow outcasts, kids with the various supernatural abilities, and she will be among her peers. Morticia. Morticia was even roommates with the Nevermore Grand Principal, Larissa Weems, who played Wednesday in her Mother All documentary. Olivia Hall, her roommate, the Pracky People, captain of the faking team, queen of the dark prom, and the president of the season society. Its legacy Wednesday, it's not her to carry and a shadow she does not want to stand in, but Nevermore is full of fellow outcasts, kids with the various supernatural abilities, and she will be among her peers. Morticia was even roommates with the Nevermore current principal, Larissa Weems, who plays Wednesday in her mother old dormitory. Olivia Hall, her roommates, the Pracky People, who plays Wednesday in her mother old dormitory. Olivia Hall, her roommate, the Pracky People person and late blooming werewolf Annette Scanner, was every bite as the cheaper and the colorful as Wednesday is gloomy, and it gives Wednesday the tour, and we get to take in the site and student of Nevermore, built in 1791 as a refuge for the outcast, monster and freak of all kinds. This year, however, is a bite of a curiosity as Nevermore is hosting its first Noremier teacher, Marilia Thornells, played by iconic former Wednesday Addams actress Kristen Reich. As Enid explained, Nevermore Clink are the currently broken up into the Fangs, First Stoners, and the Scales. The resident popular girl by Nance Blackery is a reason who shares a complicated relationship with her mother too, and used to date the resident Truth artist Xavier Trophy, and the night-boring town of the Jerusalem. Nevermore Academy and the night-boring town of the Jerusalem have a teens but the manually beneficial relationship that the powers to BFLs when fear, some heinous history full of the hated biography and the generation cards. But we all get to all that. We first get to explore Jerusalem when Wednesday is brought out into town for her required therapy sessions with the doctor Ken Bot. Wednesday promptly sneaks out, runs into a man carrying a craft of the apple and has a vision of his death, his neck shaped in the cabin of his truck. Dunking into the local coffee shop, Wednesday has her meet cute with the barista, Jerry's local tailor Gaplin, when she helps him fix his the espresso machine. One thing we quickly learn about Jerusalem, the town is obsessed with its the pilgrim heritage, especially its founder, Jos Crackstone. When three troublemaking teenage boys dressed as the pilgrims come to the coffee shop, Wednesday handily beat all three of them in a fight. It's a satisfying moment, but no a great first impression for the sheriff Gaplin, the Lord Father. He does not like the outsider, and he certainly is not too fond of the Adam family, telling Wednesday that her father belongs in jail for the murder. Weem's family track Wednesday down, and during their drive back to campus, they see the man with the appeal created dead in his truck neck, twist just like the Wednesday saw in her vision. Detective Wednesday and the mysterious undeath of the Ron Lanzo. Just as Wednesday arrived at the Nevermore Academy, a monster starts attacking innocent people around Nevermore and the Jerusalem. The victim seems unconnected, a hiking backkeepers, a Nevermore student on the brink of the madness, a weekend squatting in the local historical establishment. But Wednesday, who three book deep into the writing her own teen detective series, is the determined to crack the seas. And she gets up close and the personal with it at the Harvest Festival, where she runs into her the soulmate Rion Lasso. Literally, when they touch, she sees a vision of the monster killing him, so she follows him into the wood to warm him. But when she gets to him, he attacks her using his the technic powers to pin her to a tree and try to kill her. He explained that years ago his mother, a powerful Siri, drew a picture of the Wednesday and told him it was his destiny to destroy her before she destroyed Nevermore. That's the when the height attacks and the kills Rion on the spot, growling at the Wednesday but the leaving her alive. In the aftermath, Wednesday tells everyone exactly what happens, but to her great surprise, Rion shows up alive at school the next day. Nobody believes her but the Lord, but eventually she learned the truth. Rion really was killed by the hide in those words. Turns out, Veem is a shapeshifter, and with the help of the Rion family, shamed by his attempt to kill Wednesday, she covered up his death to protect Nevermore. It's one of many cover-ups that the Wednesday gets to the bottom of in season 1, each darker and more drying than the next. Uncle Foster unlocks a true of the Hyde lore. That solves the mystery of the Rion, but what about the monster? Eventually, while a little help from her beloved Uncle Foster, Wednesday learned that the monster is called a Hyde, one of the most dangerous and the mysterious of all outcasts. Nevermore founder Nithil Falkar is one of the very few to research the species. He spent years studying heights to determine if they are mindless killer or the conclusive of their action. But he was killed by a hide before the he could come to a conclusions. Others tried to carry on the research but found that the hides were too unpredictable and evolved. Hides are even banned from the Nevermore. Flanker diary reveals that the hides are born of the mansion, unreleased by a traumatic event or the unlocked through chemical endowment or the hypothesis Whoever unlocks the hide becomes master of the monster. With that, Wednesday realizes she looking for two killer, no one. And as the Foster says, anyone willing to unlock a hide is next level snook. During her the investigation, Wednesday meets Anish Otting Funder, president and the until Wednesday comes along, sole member of the Nevermore Hammer, the school beekeeping club. He is a sweet, nearby solitary kid, and he reminds Wednesday of her brother, so she takes him under her wings. He returns that the kindness in the dying, loyalty to Wednesday, as he always says, hammers stick together, which ultimately ends up saving her life in the final. But first, Anish takes quite the beating, attacked by the Hide during the school dance. The R. Raven also lead her to Nevermore Academy, secret society. The Nightshade. Rowan trying leads her to end the Adder alone, pure states, where she solves riddles. The solution, the snap twist, a little note to the classic Addams family theme songs, and finds their secret hideout. Current member of the long-standing society included Xavier Binance and the Ajax, among others. When Xavier says Wednesday should join she truth them down. Late in the season, we learn a bit more about the Nightshade lore. They were not always a social club, they were created by Wednesday and Stark, Goody Adams in order to protect outsiders from the harm and the Gotti and the Morticia used to be a member. They might not be quite the forcey they once were, but the current Nightshade do try to do what right. Were created by the Wednesday and Good Adams in order to protect outsiders from harm, and the Gotti and the Morticia used to be a member. They might not be quite the force they once were, but the current Nightshade do try to do what right, and they show up for the Wednesday when it comes. The love triangles. Wednesday season 1 somewhat infamously spent a lot of time on love triangles, but we are not going to spend too much on them here. They won't have a ton of the beginning or the future season scenes. A key member, Xavier, is not returning to show. Here's the need to know. Binance and the Xavier broke up because he tough she was the using her siren song to manipulate him. She still tries to win him back a few times and seems genuine, but as soon as Wednesday arrives at Nevermore, Xavier really one has eyes for her. For her part, Wednesday never really gives Xavier so much of the time of day unless she suspects him of the murder. However, she does take an honest liking to the lore, the Jerusalem Normia who work at the coffee shop. She respectfully turns to him and they even have a sweet date, and he shows her legacy beyond the which he says apparently was like torture. Wednesday visions are the relatively new to her and the began just a few months ago, so naturally she troubled about hiding them. Veem is the quick to detect the truth after their Jerusalem tribe and reveals that the Morticia started having visions around the same age. They were Morticia unbreakable and the dangerous Veems warned her. Wednesday has plenty of her own struggles with her new gifts, which she cannot command and always seems to kick in at the inopportune moment. During Nevermore annual Puke Cup, Wednesday in the lead, but when she grabs a flag from the jaws of Crackstone Tom, she immediately taken by a vision. She sees a girl who looks just like her, but with the blonde hair and the old timely clothing. Goody Adams, you are the key, she tells Wednesday, who wakes up just in time to eke out the puke wine for the Olivia Hall. Xavier later clocked that Wednesday is having vision because his father is a psycho. The first things he will tell you is that the vision can't be trusted. They only show you one side of the picture. He tells her, warning that psychoability is not rooted in the logic but emotion. During a visit to the school, Morticia also finally realizes what's going on, but even a psycho, she can't be much help. There are two types of the psycho, revenge and the dove. Wednesday is a revenge and the Morticia is a dove. Our psycho ability resides on the spectrum of who we are. Morticia explained, given my the disappointing, my vision tend to be the positive that make me a dove. You are a Rion, your visions are more point, more powerful, but without the proper training they can lead to the maintenance. Unfortunately, Morticia can't be the one to train her. Psycho are not trained by the living, but by someone from their bloodline who research out from the beyond. For Wednesday that could Adam, the beyond Peligram area which will appear in her vision and shares a dark history with the Jerusalem founder Josh Crackstone. Morticia warns Wednesday to be careful, saying Good was a watch of the great stand, but her vacancy pushed her to fall, and even she could not save herself. The troubled truth about the Josh Crackstone. The most egregious cover up that the Wednesday unheard during her the investigation is the true history of the Jobs Crackstone, the town of the Jerusalem, and what they did to the outcasts. The truth has been brought under the generation of the natives that the benefit both Jerusalem and Nevermore in the present day. Nevermore passed the taxes that the found Jerusalem and the outsider school gets to fly under the radar without the influence from the Normia. Wednesday learns the truth in a horrible vision. Crackstone and the pilgrim of the Jerusalem burned the outsider community to death. In her vision, Wednesday sees Crackdown declare Goody a witch. Then he throw her into a building full of the outcasts, included her mother, who are changed to the floor. Her mother implored her to run and avenge them. Outcasts included her mother, who are changed to the floor. Her mother implored her to run and avenge them, saving the future of the outcast, and the Goody escape through a hatch in the floor. In the vision, she wants Wednesday. He won't stop until he kill us all. I thought not scare me, but that was before I started into the eyes of the Jobs. Crackstone Wednesday says after the encounter and the church, Jerusalem new status of him in returns. Escape from the Morgan song. Binance Parsley came to the Nevermore on the run from her past, included a cult by the name of the Morning Song, but when her mother, Gabriella Bransley, come to town to Nevermore Parents' Day, she comes with the demands, and we get to learn a bit more about the secret Binance behind the doings. Binance, whose birth name is the Brandy Jan, sent her the way into the Nevermore, and the Gabriella used that information to export her daughter, threatening to expose her the unless Binance agree to come back and help Moringing Song. Gabriella is married to the cult leader Gabson and uses her the serene power to help convert new cult members. But her power are drying up, which means they need Binance back. Binance make a compromise with her the mother. She will come back to Moring Song after the end of the school year, and after that she done the true tale of the Gomes and the Morticia Addams, and not to so tragic fate of the Gate family. When Gomes and the Morticia come back to Nevermore for the Parents' Day, we get a glimpse into the lovebird past. When they were students at the Nevermore, Gomes was accused of the murdering a young man named. When Gomes and the Morticia come back to Nevermore for the Parents' Day, we get a glimpse into the lovebird past. When they were students at the Nevermore, Games was the accused of the murdering a young man named the Greta Gates in the pants after the local coroner kills himself, and they admit he fused the autopsy report on the Gates case. Sheriff Gapin comes yelling for the Gomes, the man he always suspected of the crime. Wednesday, who has been digging into her parents' dark past since the sheriff mentioned his the suspicions to her, confirmed them about it during a family therapy session with the Dr. Canbot. Morticia is the outraged and says she refused to entertain a decide or witch hunt. Inside that the Gomes did nothing wrong, But when they are back at the Nevermore, Sheriff Kaplan comes to arrest Gomes for the crime. Wednesday visits her father in the lockup and gets his the vision of the late great Wednesday in future with the Morticia mistake her kindness for the interest, growing obsessed and eventually stalking her. But he was a gate, a son of the oldest and the richest family in the Jerusalem, so there was nothing they could do about it. And his father was and the outcast hating by God who only reached harder after the Morticia accused his son on the night of the Raven great attack Gomes and the Morticia incensed from his love for her as the Gomes tell it. The two boys had a huge knockdown, drag out fight ending in the great death when he ran into the sword Gomes fired. Expect that not quite what happened. Wednesday knows her, the father tells. On her way out, she tells the sheriff no, he got the wrong guy and she a fool to believe such a convenient tale. But the sheriff Kaplan reports that the winds justice for the Wool Gates family and the tragic the educated and the hand of the outsider. After great death, his mother huge herself, his father drank himself to death, and his sister left orphan was sent overseas where she drowned. Next, Wednesday confronts her mother and learns the full truth. Morticia was the one holding sword, but Calm stepped in without the hesitating to cover for her. She also includes a key details about the fight that allow Wednesday to solve the mystery for the good. Great was the foaming at the mouth, and she tell never. Next Wednesday confront her mother and learns the full truth. Morticia was the one holding the sword, but Gum stepped in the without hesitating to cover for her. She also included a key detail about the fight that allowed Wednesday to solve the mystery for good. Great was the foaming at the mouth, and she will never forget what his eyes looked like, foaming at the mouth. Delicated pupils, mental confusions, all textbook sign of the nightshade poisoning. Great Gates was the already dying before Morticia stabbed him. They did up his the crops, confirming that the poison and when Wednesday touches his the finger, she has a vision that the clearly up and the lining questions. Grandfather was not just a by God, he was a material zealot and sent his the son into the raven and danced to the poison the punch bow and kill all the outsider students. But the grand got into a fight with the Gomes on the way in during which the vial shaded in his the pocket poisoning him. It's yet another cover up. The mayor who was the sheriff at the time knew boy was the poison, knew that the great father blamed outcast for stealing his family land, but he chose to hide that the information to protect the town of the Jerusalem. Now that Wednesday vision revealed the scope of what happened, it does not take long for the mayor to put the pieces together. He investigated the old Gates mansion, but he matured before he can tell the sheriff what he found.